Fight for your freedoms. Fight for your rights. The next president of the United States must not only win an election, he must have the vision, the will, and the courage to do whatever it takes. And above all, he must be able to identify the underlying forces that will conspire against him. These dark forces are already taking over your country. You may not see it yet, but it's already happening.
We know all of this. Every time we have an election, we have two guys, two bad choices. One is bad, the other one is less bad. So, in the case of US, we got Trump, which is less bad than Biden. And then we have, in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, that is less bad than Trudeau. But at the end, both of them are being chosen already by the globalists, the deep state, people who control the system. No, not the money, but the system that makes everything.
We're looking at America destroyed right now. We even have the criminals coming across the border, going against the cops right here. You got kids that are going to steal, rob. They got the AR-15s, and there's no consequence. And so what you see is chaos across the country.
Cops getting assaulted, cops getting. How does it stack up under this White House versus the Trump White House?
Well, we had 378 police officers last year, Liz. That is a record since we started tracking the data. A 60% increase. That is one police officer every 23 hours. There are record numbers of assaults on NYPD officers.
And so we're seeing this repeated cycle right now. And it used to be an issue where it was just in urban cities. Now it's everywhere. Crime is impacting. If you're American and you see what's happening on the street, you're concerned. You don't want to walk out on the street by yourself at night.
I don't know if you guys remember the movie RoboCop, when politicians try to build the new city, but in order to build the new city, they have to destroy the old one. Meanwhile, when they're destroying the old one, they have to put the people to live in tents, in containers, etc., etc. And at the same time, that generates a business for other people, like bringing crimes, prostitution, drugs, etc. Then is the other side of that business is bringing police, which is going to be private contractors, and so forth and so forth. So if you watch that movie, you can see how everything makes sense to what is happening right now. Not just in US, Canada, Europe, but almost everywhere that is happening. They're trying to destroy something physical to make it better, right? That also comes with minds. They destroy minds to make a new one. So that's why you see in the implementation of a lot of thoughts and vibes. They don't settle properly. So you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say it, but you know what I'm talking about. So again, be prepared. Don't give up your weapons. The worst is yet to come.
Known as the Center for Terrorism Confinement, it opened its doors in 2023 after the government declared a state of emergency. The move limiting civil rights and allowing massive arrest of tens of thousands of gang members.
Aquí están esos sujetos que ocasionaron tanto luto y dolor en una sociedad.
And international watch groups say innocent people are being caught in the raids, many sounding the alarm last year, calling for transparency.
We don't know if those who are being detained have committed a crime.
Now, the president has admitted that these are harsh measures, but he's also said, Tom, that when the gangs ruled the streets of El Salvador, they did not take human rights into consideration. The president has gone as far as asking the human rights groups to come to El Salvador and take the gang members out of the country to a place where he says they can look after their human rights. So you can see the stance that's being taken by the president, standing firm by his decisions, Tom.
Yeah, we're in big trouble here. I mean, these are two of the most dangerous gangs on the planet. They are prison-spawn gangs. They come out of the muck and the slime of these South American prisons, which are their stronghold. And as you say, Dana, we knocked them down in late 2000s with just an international effort. But now they're coming back in and they're reestablishing themselves. And that bodes ill for law enforcement across the country. We're going to be living with this crime wave for decades. And I believe that Venezuela is emptying their prisons deliberately and sending these people up here, just like Castro did in the 80s. They haven't evolved on the scale to the point where they're doing more sophisticated crime. And again, they go back. You go back to, if you Google MS-13 and machetes, you'll see how they people.
This is when things make sense for us. So they took all these criminals and sent them back to Salvador, right? So what happened? They put them in planes. They didn't tell anything to the government. The government wasn't prepared to receive these people. These people ended up on the streets. Now you got a president who did what U.S. did in the Middle East, which is using the snitching incentive to get people to give up the criminals. So what happened with that? A lot of people ended up in jail who's innocent, because if you give me a reward for snitch, I will snitch on my neighbors, which they're not criminals. I just don't like them. So they're gonna end up in jail. And in order for them to get out of jail, they're gonna do the same thing. That's the problem with the snitching. So maybe 40%, maybe 50% of the people who get caught in those raids are innocent. But by the time they get charged under the criminal justice system, they're gonna spend 5-6 years instead of like 1 year, or instead of nothing. They shouldn't be there. So when they get out of jail, they're actually criminals, because in order to survive in a jail in South America, you have to become a criminal. So that is tricky. Now what it says after about people being sent to US, to Canada, in Europe, that makes sense for what I was saying about the movie. You know, it's like the movie is repeating itself now in real time. They're bringing criminals to the sort of cities, and they allow that to happen. They allow them to happen. See, it's in your face. So again, don't give up your weapons.